Baonin, ¿cómo tú estás? What is good, my people? Today, we have a bit of a more serious video. I'm going to be watching a social experiment of the doll test. It's essentially a video that studies the effects of like racism on children, and just kind of give you like a high level like TLDR. The doll test is a psychological experiment designed in the 1940s in the USA to test the degree of marginalization felt by African American children caused by prejudice, discrimination, and racial segregation. This test that we're going to be watching is actually a recreation of the US doll test with Italian children. So I think we're going to be hearing Italian instead of English. There should be subtitles. If not, this is going to be a very short video because like I'm not going to be able to watch it. But before we get into this video, if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button for me, hit that like button for me, hit the notification bell. I appreciate you. And if you have any reaction requests, let me know down in those comments below. You can find my socials in the description. Shoot me a DM. And without further ado, my people, let's get into this video. Dale.
Quale bambola è bianca?
Easy enough.
Quale bambola è nera?
Easy enough.
Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta?
So this is quite interesting because we have three children that we've seen thus far. We have a child that appears to be black. It could be half black, half Italian. I'm not really sure, but definitely black. We do have a mixed race kid from what we can see. That's half white, half black. We seem to have an Italian kid, and the child that we're watching right now has on screen. She sees the black doll as beautiful, and the white doll as ugly. And for the mixed race kid, it's actually the reversed. It's the white doll is the pretty one, and the black doll is the ugly one. And for the kid that appears to be Italian, he's in line with the mixed race child's answers, with the white doll being the pretty doll and the black doll being the not pretty doll. Is again quite very interesting to see how like racial dynamics, especially of mixed race kids, plays into their I don't want to say bias because they're kids, like they're still learning and growing. So I don't think I should use the word bias, but like their worldview essentially. Going to go back so that way we kind of know where we're at. All right, let's continue.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona? Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Interesting.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola?
You see, key words. I'm gonna go back just a little bit so we can look at her words.
E qual è la bambola?
Hold up.
Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
You see, I wasn't really sure if she was a mixed race kid, but because she said because he's all black, that just confirms for me that this child is mixed race. And for those that are mixed race, I happen to be of two races that are sort of minority groups in the U.S. Being Nigerian and being, well, I guess black, and being Hispanic is the best way to put that. So like my racial identity is a little bit different because like I'm not half white. I think half white kids, half black kids sort of have sort of like more sort of issues in regards to like their own identity, because like the groups are very very different in terms of like the history in the United States. It's a little bit different overseas, of course, but I'm really only focusing in on what's going on in the USA, because that's where I have all of my experience in terms of just growing up and whatnot, as opposed to children that are of different minority groups in the United States that are mixed race. It's a completely different world. Again, kids that are mixed race within minority groups still have their own issues. That is for sure. But it's different than being a kid in one minority group and then like the majority group. It's a different world. But I brought that up because of like that comment right there. So I just find it to be quite interesting. Again, not the child's fault. She's still growing, learning, and developing. She's just a product of her environment. And I'm curious to see what this test will look like in the United States in 2024. Because given how our country in the U.S. is definitely a melting pot of different ethnicities versus being done in Italy, where it's the majority of people are actually are Italian, because again you're in Italy, so it's a little bit different in the U.S. So I'm just wondering in my mind how this would all play out. They have me very very curious.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più?
Wow. So let me see if there's one more before I go on. So this is actually quite interesting because only one out of the I forget how many kids that we have here, but only one child chose the black doll as being good and pretty. All the rest of them chose that doll as being ugly and bad. And when they were sort of questioned by the gentleman that's sort of leading this video, they chose that same doll that they said was ugly and bad as the one that looks like them. That right there in itself is kind of crazy, man. For me growing up, I don't really know how I would even have answered any of these questions. I was fortunate enough to go to a school from like kindergarten all the way up into to junior high that was like extremely diverse. In my grade, I don't know how they did this, but like there was an equal number of like white kids, Spanish kids, black kids. There were some people that were mixed race, of course, me being one of them that belonged to two different groups. The only minority group that really wasn't represented was sort of like Middle Eastern and people from Asia. They were sort of that minority group within the minority group. Me having gone to a school that was like that, I don't really know how I would have answered any of these questions. I probably wouldn't have answered them, like it doesn't really matter. And it wasn't until high school where I was actually feeling the effects of being a sort of like racial minority, because I went to a predominantly white high school as well as predominantly white college. And by effects, like I don't mean like negatively, it just went from me going to a school that was like racially diverse, I think like by design, because like the only way you can have an equal number of like children from like different sort of like ethnic groups is like if you actually design it to be that way. And I think that was the intent, which allowed me to have a very unique growing up perspective than other kids that went to like a different school than me. Yeah, this is all quite interesting, man. Like, I really, I'm gonna look to see if this was like done in recent years in the United States, because I'm just very, very curious to understand like how this would all play out. But again, that same doll that they chose as being bad and ugly, they identify that doll as themselves. Like, growing up with that mindset, like there was that type of like self-hate that you're really unaware of is, man, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Like, I'm very curious on get your guys' thoughts on this in the comments below. Let's have a discussion. Please keep it, respectful, please. And yeah, like, I'm very interested to read your guys' comments. As a fact,
Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ha offeso.
Chi?
Tu,
Perché?
perché mi hai chiamato nera.
Perché ti offendi?
Mi offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
No, io non ho usato nessuna cattiveria.
Quello mi sta guardando storto.
interesting. So I liked that she stood up for herself. It's like, listen, you offended me by calling me black because other people have called me black. That was, quite interesting. That for a child to have that type of, confidence and ability in herself to like call out something that she deems wrong. And I think that is the kind of only way a child could grow up and end up being like a functional and confident human being, is if they have confidence to be like, hey, like, listen, I don't like what you said, it offended me. And she didn't do it in like an aggressive way. She just simply, spoke her feelings. And I think that is the only way for there to be change, is people speak how they feel and there's like honest discussion. But again, I'm very curious to get your guys' take on this video. Let me know down in the comments below, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.